All right, before we get into helping everybody with their Social Security issues, Medicare issues, retirement, survivor benefits, disability benefits, a lot of people email me and say, "Hey, Ed, you're a former Marine Corps sergeant. What do you think of what's going on in the news?" As you know, I always try to tie everything back to Social Security. Does this tie into the news? Does this tie into Social Security? Absolutely, it does. I'll get into that. But I asked a little poll on YouTube as well, whether people think should U.S. Marines be deployed to control protests in American cities like Los Angeles. And yes, that is a national security comes first, got 22%. No, that's not their role, got 62%. And only in extreme emergencies got 17%. So a majority of people said, no, that is not the role of the United States Marine Corps. And being an old Marine Corps sergeant, I can guarantee you that is a fact. They are trained completely different. As you can see, I in my little title there, I put the scare quotes around that former sergeant. I used to just write former sergeant, but then fellow Marines called me out on it and says, "Yeah, you might be a former sergeant in the Army or the Air Force or something like that, but once you were in the military, in the Marine Corps, that is, then yeah, you're pretty much damaged. You're damaged for life." So nobody is a former anything when you're in the Marine Corps because it affects you for the rest of your life because it is a completely different world. And that's, I would argue, as many others. And so we want to go into get as many questions as we can and comments. That's not the type of person, the troops, battalion, platoons, fire squads that you want to be sending out to do kind of police. Maybe, MPs, Marine Corps military police, but it doesn't sound like those are the people that are going to LA. It sounds like they're coming from Camp Pendleton. I was stationed in El Toro, California, Marine Corps Air Station, VMA 214, the Baba Black Sheep there. And the wing is a little bit different, but Camp Pendleton, yeah, hopefully, I didn't see their MOS, but are these 0311? These are the Marines, the grunts. So I'm not sure if those are the type of Marines that they sent, and then that's a entirely different conversation there. So, Marianne, let's get into some of your comments and questions on all this. And again, I'm not going to forget about those people that need help with Social Security. I'll make sure I add some of those questions in as well. This is the orders of Stephen Miller, Project 2025, and the Heritage Foundation, who want to destroy our country. Trump is their puppet. Yeah, this was pretty much laid out in 2025, Project 2025. A lot of the stuff, the Medicare cuts that are going to come based on the deficit that's caused by the budget. Medicaid is going to be cut. The Affordable Care Act is going to be cut. And because of the deficit, it automatically kicks in a 2010 law that says Medicare will need to be cut too because they need to find offsets. We've got someone that's actually in Los Angeles here. So Elaine says, I live here. LA is over 400 square miles, and the news and their leader is saying it's burning down. 3 blocks, just 3 blocks. Yeah, it's. I saw a map on it. It's a very, very, very small area that has issues. And if for those people that are on the ground there that saw anything, make sure you chime in. I've got on my website, if you go onto my website, mygovexpert.com, I've added a new little thing there. Oh, let me get my face out of there. Let me see. Okay, I've added a little thing in the bottom right, record your video. So if you have any comments or if you have any questions, Social Security, Medicare, disability, retirement, survivor benefits, Medicaid questions, this is a new thing we just added, so you can record your little video there. Take 2 minutes, but be advised, if you record a video, you give me permission to go ahead and show it during YouTube. So if you have a question, just leave your first name and the city and state where you're from and say, hey, Ed, I have a question about survivor benefits. I got a question about the independently entitled divorce spouse benefits, disability benefits, and then I'll show your video and answer it on one of my future live YouTube videos. So that is a brand new thing. And I just also added living on Social Security alone. So for those people out there struggling in LA and all throughout the country, if you're having problems, make sure you check it out. So it's mygovexpert.com. And let me go ahead and put in the website address, completely free, bunch of retirement resources there in terms of when you should file for benefits, or is your check correct, all the rest of it. Okay. Let's see here. Was on disability. Okay, well, again, I'm going to mix this up between current events, but we always want to make sure that people are getting the benefits they need to survive. So we'll jump back and forth between current events and Social Security. Was on disability, turned Social Security after 65. I have a special event insurance claim. Will that affect my disability benefits? Now, okay, so if you are receiving disability benefits, if your full retirement age was 65, then yes, your disability benefits turned into retirement benefits. But if your full retirement age is 67, then your benefits won't turn into regular retirement benefits until 67. But if, in fact, your full retirement age was 65, then you're on regular retirement benefits, and whatever special insurance claim, whatever you're talking about, you're going to get some money from an insurance claim, has no relevance whatsoever to your retirement benefits. Even on a disability claim, it doesn't have any relevance unless it's a workers' comp type of claim. So I live here in LA, and it is over 500 square miles. News and their leader says it's burning down 3 blocks. Okay. Provoked unrest is not worthy of 4,000 National Guard and 700 Marines. Yeah, that's these early reports on anything in the news. You always have to take it with a grain of salt. Early reporting on things like this, usually some, about 80% correct, but there's always incorrect things in there. So we always want to, sit back and, make sure we become politically active, but before we, make a judgment one way or the other, let the dust settle a bit. But it sounds as though they were doing sweeps. ICE was doing sweeps. They went into some restaurants and some schools, and people said, "Hey, I thought you were going to go after the criminals, not people that are working at the local fast food restaurant. What's going on here?" They were arresting people they're showing up to their court hearings, going through the entire process, and they arrested those people, wouldn't let them see the lawyer, their families, or anything like that, and people began to protest. And one thing turned into other. There's always bad actors in these types of situations that want to cause trouble. But it looks as though that we've got thousands of LAPD. They had it relatively under control. The governor, that's how it's supposed to go. Is the governor, mobilizes the National Guard. But it looks as though that was the issue, that the president decided to mobilize the National Guard. It has happened in history, Alabama, segregation and everything like that. When the local governor decided not to do anything, then the president decided at that time to go ahead and, nationalize the National Guard. The Marines have done stuff, domestically. In the 1800s, there was a lot of people ripping off postal employees, people going out there delivering mail. So they put Marines with your postal service delivery person to protect them. So it has happened in history, and whether we want that to be kind of what's going on right now. So if a state governor refuses to stop violent protests, does the president have not just the legal right, but the moral obligation to send in federal troops? So again, that's what happened in Alabama. Whether the governor was stopping these violent protests, were they violent protests? There was an element of violence in there, obviously. Or do you think this provoked more? I see a lot of people that say it was actually provoked more than it actually helped. Let's see, get some other questions there. Oh, it looks like we got a Social Security question, so let's jump into that one. I went to Social Security to apply for early retirement at the age of 62, and they asked me if I was still working. I said yes. He said I must have stopped working or bring a letter from company I am Okay. So you don't, yeah, I've never heard of anybody saying you need a letter. You just tell them. You tell Social Security and says, "Yep, I worked," because what they're looking at is the monthly earnings limit, and you can again go into my website, click on the retirement tab there, and you click on working and benefits, and it tells you what they're looking for is the difference between the annual and the monthly earnings limit. So you probably made over the annual limit, the 23,400, but that doesn't matter because once you start receiving your retirement benefits, what you made before that, it has no relevance. So once you start your benefits, are you going to stay under $1,950? If you're going to stay under $1,950, you tell them, "Yep, I'm going to stay under $1,950 for the rest of the year." And the next year, you have to stay under the annual earnings limit. I've never heard of them. I've taken hundreds of thousands of retirement claims, and I've never asked anybody, can you send me a letter, get a letter from your, employer that you're going to quit or whatever. Yeah, that they are supposed to take your word. And if it turns out, you know, you do go back to work or you make over that, then you just get an overpayment next year. So you just have to pay that money back. So, Dr. Weir, what do you know about all Social Security checks being frozen? Nope. I think that's just possibly internet myth going out there. Obviously, if you're particular situation, if your particular check is frozen because you worked over the annual earnings limit, or you're working and you're in the middle doing the work CDRs, you have an overpayment on an individual basis, yeah, Social Security, freezes records or stops your payment, suspends your payment until X, Y, or Z is resolved. But in terms of a mass frozen of people throughout the country, no. So hi, Bella. I hope you're doing as well. We need lots of rest now to deal with this scary parade. I just have a feeling Trump's plotting people to stir up crap. He'll pay some to cherry pick and then film. Yeah, a lot of this all politicians have always been, seems it's kind of a media circus. They, the number one, job of a politician is to stay a politician. Number one job of a king is to stay king. So how do they do that? They get their really avid supporters to go against the people that are not their supporters or not as avid supporters. So yeah, we always fall for it, and divide and conquer has been around since Roman times. That would produce moral injury in our military people. Yeah, that's you go back in history with the Marines follow orders, and their commanding officers and their executive commanding officers, their XOs, their squad leaders, battalion leaders, platoon leaders. It rolls downhill, and Marines, they follow orders first, and it depends what comes down the pike. And I'm sure the Marines are just out there, just as you are, worrying about what's going to happen. The Marines are 10 times more worried whether they're going to be given some type of a legal order and what they should do at that particular time. And that's one of the interesting things I would like to see, because we've got a lot of veterans here. So veterans, if you were still active duty and you got deployed to police American citizens in Los Angeles, would you follow those orders or refuse? What would you tell Marines facing that choice today? So those veterans out there, what are your thoughts? If you were still active duty and you were in this situation, what would you do? Right. Pink Owl, troops under federal authorities are in general prohibited from conducting law enforcement on U.S. soil under the Posse Comitatus Act. That is a fact. Yeah, those terms, posse and comitatus, those are kind of the same words, kind of a posse, just like the old Westerns. You deputize troops, you deputize civilians to make them, sheriffs or whatever. So, you start a posse. Comitatus is kind of the same type of word. Yeah, that's been around since 1800s or so. So yeah, that's been an act, and the only time they can overturn that, they can ignore that, is if the president invokes the Insurrection Act of 1807. So yeah, they're not supposed to be doing things like that. They can, under that act, protect federal employees. I think that's what they used to protect the postal workers and federal facilities. That's it. So that's it. They're not supposed to be going out there policing or, arresting people. Um, if we're talking about Marines from Camp Pendleton, 0311 grunts, recon or something, yeah, they don't know how to arrest people. They know how to take people out, but they don't know how to arrest people. So that is not their forte. Let's see. Michael Forone said, sending Marines to California was a really bad idea because they're trained to kill. Yes, that is what they are trained to do, from as far distance as possible, hopefully. Yeah. If I earn got a question here about Social Security. If I earn $1,500 a month over the allowed 1950, would my Social Security be deducted? So if you go over, so you're talking about your first year. If you're talking about the 1950, then you're talking about your first year of receiving Social Security benefits under your full retirement age. And if you go under 1950, the monthly earnings limit doesn't apply to you anymore. You're going to be subject to the annual earnings limit. So I kind of feel like LA is Trump's fault and acting like a king wants all the control, and just my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't. Obama they called him the deporter in chief because he deported just an unbelievable amount of people, and there was, did it without all the fanfare and the publicity, and just got it done. So not exactly sure why, well, again, politics is optics. We respect our military. We use National Guard for hurricanes often, but what a whole different scenario. Yes, and the governors traditionally have called up the National Guard specifically for those reasons. Titus Mom, stay safe. Those of you in Los Angeles, this could be what happens throughout the country. Yeah, that's, whether it sets a precedent here, in that famous movie, Matthew McConaughey and, Samuel Jackson, was it A Time to Kill? They were talking about that, and says, okay, at the very end of it, he says, okay, now think of it as the other group. So if the people that support the current president doing X, Y, and Z, okay, if the next president is not of your political party and they decide to call out the Marines for something you are protesting, then is that still okay? So that's what we have to contend with, right? Abby, I know what my Marine father would have done or not done. All right, so let us know. I know what my Marine father would have done or not done. Oh, so yeah, let us know, please. And yes, when you have a Marine father, and for all practical purposes, you are partly Marine as well, because if you live with a Marine, you're unfortunately, yes, get that contagion as well. My son can attest to that. Only in extreme cases, the poll won't let me choose. Oh, it won't let you choose. I apologize. So it might be closed out. But yeah, there are other protests in Chicago, New York, Minnesota. My oldest son was National Guard when he was in the military. I'll thank him for his service. I'm a green card holder, Canadian, residing in the U.S. for past 17 years, currently collecting Social Security. If I decide to move outside the United States, can I collect my Social Security? Check out my website, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. And you click on living overseas. And then you click on eligibility for non-citizens because you're a green card holder, and you click on that little button right there. Let me make sure it works today. Yes. And you go into there. It goes into the SSA website, and it's a payments abroad screening tool. And you put what citizen your country. I think if you're a Canadian, if you still have legal status, then you are good. But check that out. It'll tell you exactly whether you can continue to receive benefits. Diane, is Trump so insecure that he thinks that using the military will make him seem strong or like a tough guy? Yeah. This is not a protest, it's a riot, Stephen Moore. Okay. Or is it a riot within a protest? So nobody there is protesting, it's all 100% a riot? Or no, it is not a riot. Yeah. So again, bad actors, it doesn't matter. Anytime you get a whole bunch of people load together, and invariably people are going to do stupid stuff. Let me see. Got some other questions here. When protesters start looting and placing harm on anyone, it's not a protest, it's a riot. Again, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. You can have people in one area protesting, just like January 6th. You had a whole bunch of people outside that, just what the heck are y'all doing? That was a protest. And then part of it turned into a riot. Those people, again, well, the president said they were just having a tour, I guess, right? So maybe the rioters in Los Angeles are just touring Disneyland, and we're all yeah. Okay. I started Social Security at 68, not knowing I had to report at 65. I got punished for life, $15 a month. Okay. Not sure what you're talking about in terms of report at 65. Oh, you're probably talking about Medicare. So if you got punished for not doing something at 65, then that sounds like Medicare. So you're supposed to sign up for Medicare at 65 unless you have other health insurance from work, current work, yours or your spouse's, and your employer has 25 or 20 more employees. Another question is Medigap Plan G or N better than the Advantage Plan? I personally believe a Medigap, a Medicare Supplement Plan, Plan G or Plan N is always better than Medicare Advantage Plan if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, then it's not good because you're going to lose it. So if you're able to afford the monthly premium, yes, a Medicare supplement plan is the way to go. I prefer Plan N because I'm cheap like that. And I like to save 20 or 30, 40 bucks. But you can change your Medicare Advantage plan any time of the year. So you can reach out to my partners there at Chapter and they can help you out. Let's see. You are not here to discuss protests, and since you don't know all the facts, please stick to Social Security. Okay, I think I have a First Amendment right to talk what I want to talk about. So, but you have a First Amendment right to not listen to what I'm talking about. Tano, with all due respect, this is Dr. Weir's channel. He can discuss whatever he wants. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I have people in LA. This is not like the so-called media are saying it is only a few blocks long. Trump wants chaos. Wondering what the timeline of the Medicare Medicaid cuts will be. The military being deployed here in LA is deplorable. Today, a man posing as an ICE agent robbed an established duck-tied a female clerk. Wow. Yeah, there's bad actors. And that's, what politicians do. They take out, one or two bad actors out of 100 and, wide brush on everybody else and use that as justifications for doing whatever they wanted to do to begin with. We just have to be smarter than politicians, which is not very difficult if you ask me. But in terms of Medicare, Medicaid cuts, we're talking about if the big, beautiful bill passes, they want to do those Medicaid cuts almost immediately over $600, $700 billion. So there's going to be people that are going to be losing Medicaid next year. They're going to be doing those recertifications more often, and people are going to fall through the cracks. So the people that are going to, lose Medicaid because supposedly they're, not working and, living in the parents' basement, playing Nintendo or whatever the case may be. But as we saw after the end of COVID, there were a lot of collateral damage. 75% of the people that were canceled, their Medicaid was canceled, they later came back and said, oops, we messed up. So there's going to be a lot of people that they get their Medicaid canceled that they shouldn't. And they're going to be, in dire straits for a month or 2 months or 3 months until they get it figured out. And they might, have medicine that need to be refilled that they can't get done. They have to doctor's appointments, operations, whatever the case may be. And that has happened. And unfortunately, it's going to happen again. I guarantee it. Because I've, been in this industry for a while. I know I've worked on the inside of the bureaucratic beast, and I know how inefficient it is, particularly when you cut back all the staff. Thousands of Social Security employees have been let go, relocated outside of the agency. Medicaid, local Medicaid offices throughout the country have been, decimated as well, and they're going to be asked to, do 10 times more paperwork, and stuff is going to get missed. So that's going to happen immediately. And in terms of Medicare, even though people say, hey, there's no such thing and there's nothing in the big, beautiful bill about cutting Medicare, you are correct. That is right. But the big beautiful bill creates a deficit. And if you look at the Pay Go Act of 2010, anytime you have a deficit, a budget causes a deficit, there has to be automatic offsets somewhere else. And the Social Security Administration is exempt from those automatic offsets. The Veterans Administration is exempt from those automatic offsets. So the only other major place you can go is Medicare. So they're going to be cutting back on Medicare in terms of how much doctors are paid, hospitals. So I did a video, was it yesterday, day before yesterday, about all of the hospitals that are going to be in dire straits. We're talking about 700, 800, 900 hospitals, particularly in rural areas, that they're going to get their Medicare cut and their Medicaid cut and the Affordable Care Act cut, the marketplace health insurance. And that's going to put a triple whammy on a lot of these hospitals, and they're just going to have to shut down. But before they shut down, private equity is going to come in there and buy them up, drain them, bleed them dry. It's not going to be pretty. So it's time to definitely reach out to your politicians and tell them what you think. Larry, thanks, Doc, said in Bugs Bunny voice, for all you and your son do for us, like, subscribe, and smash a cap. Thank you. Appreciate it. How much destruction do we allow before you consider it extreme? Do we need to see murders? Yeah, that's I guess that's a decision that we have to make as American citizen, is, burning a few cars. And if that's the case, anytime any, football team wins, so we need to call in the Marines. That's a riot. So there's violence and people burning cars and smashing windows whenever, whatever football team wins, whatever. Yeah, I guess that's a decision that we have to make as a people, right? I'm sorry, starting fires, burning places down is not a protest. It is legal and a felony. Exactly, 100%. And they should be, there's 9,000 LAPD, over 9,000 Los Angeles Police Department. I think they can handle, a few dozen stupid people and arrest them. But the Marines, I think that's way overkill. Arrest illegal immigrants. Let the ones who are law-abiding have family, jobs, and in school alone. Give them a path to either residency, green card, or citizenship. Have family. Yeah, that's obviously, by being in the country illegally, they're by default, not obeying the law because they're not here legally. But they do. I kind of see where you're going there. They do pay taxes. They do pay Social Security taxes. It's estimated that people that are not supposed to be working in this country pay into Social Security $37 billion. So we've got these mass arrests and these mass deportations. And I said I was going to tie it to Social Security, and here it goes. So those $37 billion that is paid into Social Security every year by people working under, illegal or different Social Security numbers, or working under ITN, or over, they have their own Social Security number, but, then, they were here as a student or something like that, and they were supposed to go back after they graduated, but they continue still working. So there's a lot of people that, for whatever reason, they pay into FICA, pay into Social Security, but they will never get that money back because they're not in this country legally. So that is going to put a drain on the Social Security Trust Fund. So the Social Security Trust Fund is going to run out in about 2034, 2035. So it's going to run out a lot sooner when we've got all those. And then we've also got a lot of those people that work under the table, low wages, pick strawberries, work in healthcare, work in hospitality, work in agriculture, whatever the case may be. We are going to get a lot of people that are not going to be able to do those jobs. And those jobs, in order to get people, they're going to have to raise the rates, how much they pay. And therefore inflation is going to go up. And that means the COLA for Social Security is going to go up, which people think, oh, that's great. But that's because inflation goes up. And that also sucks out of the trust fund. So when the COLA goes up, more money has to come out of the trust fund. And that means the trust fund is diminished sooner. So all of this, yes, does have effect on, there are, trickle down effects on Social Security, unfortunately. Cool Jewel. House Republican leadership has released a 2025 budget that would make Republican plans to gut Social Security a reality. Um, yeah, they really haven't touched. I'm not sure whether you're talking the big beautiful bill. It doesn't talk about Social Security, but so if that's the one you're talking about, it doesn't cut Social Security. But therein lies the rub, as Shakespeare would say, is Social Security needs to be touched because it's going to be running out of benefits in terms of the trust fund. So Social Security will be around here for hundreds of more years, but how much is paid out is the issue. So in 2034, you're only going to get about your check is only going to be about 80% because it's going to be at least about 20% cut because the trust fund is running out. Right now, you've got X amount coming in, you've got X amount going out. What covers the difference, that 20% difference, is the trust fund. When that trust fund runs out, then you're just going to get 80%. And so the current big, beautiful bill doesn't gut Social Security. It doesn't raise the retirement age, all that kind of good stuff. Awesome, perfect, great. But it also doesn't solve this problem about the inevitable cuts that will happen. So that needs to be addressed. And there was actually a competing, because we can talk bad about, that we don't like this particular bill or that bill or whatever the case may be. But okay, what is the alternative? And there's actually, I'm going to talk about this probably tomorrow, the alternative proposal actually increases the FICA cap. And then it goes after the Department of Defense, and it goes after Medicare Advantage plans, and it goes after prescription drug plans, and it actually reduces the deficit. So I think I'll talk about that tomorrow, unless you all want me to talk about something else. All service authorities are not happy with what is going on with these protests. Yes. Yeah, nobody's happy with any of these protests. So there were not violent protests in LA. There were isolated incidents, less than when the Dodgers won the World Series. Right. Yes. Yes. So we're going to have to deport Shohei Ohtani because he caused all of those protests in the crazy logic there. No, nobody touch Shohei. He's a national treasure in Japan and the United States. So leave Ohtani out of this. So they say President says, I am a doctor and we just sit at home and allow the military to take over, wake up people. There was no issue. So the president says, I'm a doctor and we just sit at home and allow the military to take. Not sure what you're. Doctor, I was going to say you are never a former Marine and your rank, and I would assume sticks with you as well. Yes. I used to get called out for missing those scare quotes there. Where were the Marines or the Guard when Trump supporters beat police and broke into the Capitol looking to hand people? Yeah, then they were pardoned by the Trump, all criminals, Trump. Yeah. I always try to be fair. Those protests, it ended within a couple of 3 hours. Everybody left, so there was no time to call in the Marines. Even if there, I don't think there was any attempt to call in the Marines. But the LA protests are over several days, and so that's where that comes from. But yes, the theoretical argument still stands. I agree. So they should not be there in LA. Right? I wish that topic weren't brought up. It's not Social Security, and I am upset. Okay, all right. Well, that is your constitutional right to be upset. The media loops scenes all about ratings and money. Wow, that is a fact. That is a fact. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this today, to get y'all's actual opinion and try to get some people that actually live out there. So, LA cops were caught smashing their patroller windshield so they could blame and arrest the protesters. Video on YouTube. I haven't seen anything like that. And that's one of the scary things nowadays with AI, is that you can, basically make a video to do everything and anything. And I think politicians are going to use that against us. Is anytime anything, if something like that actually happened, then a politician just say, no, that was AI. And then move on and, do what they're actually alternative, yeah. So, Ed isn't seeing the videos I have about the violence and destruction. Yep, I've seen them. Yep, it's completely uncalled for, and those people should be arrested and thrown in jail. I agree. But does that the logical leap to call in the Marines? Yeah, so let's see. Elena, good afternoon. I am 64 and have lupus with flare-ups, brain fog, etc. I plan to retire early due to the brain fog. I'm a nurse. Will qualify for disability. All right. So you are looking to file a rib dib, which is highly recommended in your case. So you're going to be, it sounds like you want to go ahead and file for retirement benefits, early retirement. But because you're going to be filing for early retirement, it's going to, it's going to be reduced by probably 3 years, because your full retirement age, I'm assuming, is 67. So you're going to be a 3-year reduction. So your benefits can be reduced for the rest of your life. But if one of the reasons you're going to start those benefits is because you can no longer work, I would file for disability at the same time. And why do you do both? Is because you need money while you're waiting for your disability claim to be approved, because now it takes way, 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 way too long. So reach out to your politicians and say, hey, why does it take so long? So while you're waiting for your disability to approve, at least you got some monthly income coming in. If they approve your disability later, then they will recalculate your benefits, because once you receive disability, if you, let's say, if you started receiving your disability at 64, you would get your full amount. It wouldn't be reduced at all. So you would get the amount you would get at full retirement age. But when you get retirement early, then it's reduced. So yes, definitely call up, schedule an appointment, and you can't really do that online. Well, here's a trick. I would, as soon as you essentially stop working, make under $1,620 a month from working, go online, file a disability claim online, and then file a retirement claim. And the reason I like people to do the disability claim online is that you're not pressured, because Social Security is so understaffed. If you do it over the phone, then they're probably going to only have like 45 minutes or an hour to take your disability claim before they have to move on to the next 400 people. So I would do it online. That way you've got your pills and your doctor's names and all that kind of stuff right there in front of you. And you can put you've got a lot of time, no pressure to put it all in the system. So once you press the button, I would wait a few days. And then probably someone from Social Security is going to call you up, and if there's any issues or something, I'll call you up and check this, that, or whatever. But if not, call them up and say, oh, I just filed a disability claim. I also want to add a retirement claim on that as well to start my benefits while you're doing the disability claim. So that is my recommendation. Robert, perhaps the military should side with the public. They are there to protect the public and not be an arm to create a dictator. Trump is a danger to this country, personal profit only. Yeah, I don't think the military is going to do that. Yeah, I mean, that's, I always say that, the My Lai massacre in Vietnam, and, the military, has stood up sometimes. But yeah, 700 Marines from Camp Pendleton, 0311, they're going to follow orders. But they are allowed to ignore what they think is illegal orders. So I think if it gets to the extremes and their CO tells them to go over there and do something terrible to this particular person, I think then that, yes, I know my Marines. I don't think they're going to do that. Yeah, no, I think we're safe from, yes, Kent State. Those were, National Guard weekend warriors, bunch of people that were avoiding the Vietnam draft. So, there's, so people, not tough people trying to be tough. We're talking about tough people being actually tough. So those people, yeah, I don't think they're going to do anything stupid, crazy. When it push comes to shove, I know my Marines, they're going to do the right thing. I guarantee it. Whether they should be in that situation, whether we should put them in that situation, that's what we're talking about here. So I hear it is going to rain there on Saturday. May it all hail golf ball size hail all that day. Okay, yeah, that'll definitely clamp things down, right? There's a famous picture I used to send out to my Marine Corps buddies, where there's a guy as a Marine out there with a mop, mopping, the parking lot when it's raining. So that's what Marines do. Yeah. Anyway, crazy stuff. Got to do what you got to do. Bonesburg draft dodging Trump doesn't care about the military. Disrespected war hero John McCain. Praying they resolve everything and safety of all. Yes, that's hopefully what we're all. Yes, that's what we are all hoping for. And again, that's our Rosa Parks moment, right? We're sitting in the back of the bus, and then someone is talking to Rosa Parks and telling her to do this, that, and the other. Are we just going to sit there and watch it, or are we going to stand up and say, hey, let her sit wherever she wants? Considering Newsom has the fourth largest economy in the world, he's doing pretty well. Yeah, that's the argument that he's saying that California pays a lot more, and the red states, a lot of welfare going to those particular states. So it's a pretty large economy. Nelson, we don't have money for the people but Trump wants a military parade for his birthday. Wonder where the fraud, waste, and abuse is really at. Yes. Yeah, they can always find money for those particular things, right? Remember the old bumper sticker that said they never had to have a bakery sale for the Pentagon to get a new tank, but teachers have to do bakery sales and to get money for paper and supplies all the time. It's so gross and unfair that he's put the Guard and Marines between a rock and a hard place. More disrespect, but he doesn't care. Yeah, the military does what they're told. So again, whether we should do it. Servicemen are taught not to obey illegal orders. Exactly, 100%. The only reason to deploy military is for their presto became a dictator. There was no issue and no issue. Yeah, there's obviously, just people are people. So any type of group, you're going to have, a few idiots in there. But yeah, Marines are people just like everybody else. But I think if an illegal order is given, I'm almost sure that 99% of them are going to say, hey, there's a legal order. I'm sure there's one person that will disagree, but that's what blanket parties are for. Fellow Marines out there know what a blanket party is. They're not on the streets, only protecting federal buildings and federal employees. Los Angeles DA just held a press conference and made that perfectly clear. Warned not to fall for false reports. Okay, perfect. That's part of the Posse Act that was passed in the 1800s. That is what they're allowed to do, short of invoking the Insurrection Act. They're only allowed to protect federal employees and federal buildings. Good. So at least that part is going correctly. So let's see. Scott, Dr. Weir, my wife's Social Security is very small. If she starts collecting at 62, can she switch at 67 and collect 50% spousal benefits? Mine is pretty substantial. Yes, but her benefit, so the calculations are kind of convoluted. So make sure, let me get in here. Oops, I lost my. So go into my website and click in the spouse benefit one. I just closed that out, unfortunately. But so she will get a reduced amount from hers, and then she will get up to 50% minus not what she's currently receiving, but her full benefit amount. So let's say she's able to get $1,500 from you, right? And she gets $700 from her own, but her full benefit, let's say, is $1,000. It won't be, the 1,500 minus 700. It'll be 1,500 minus 1,000. She'll get 500 from you, and then she'll get her smaller check. So her benefit is always going to be reduced total because she took hers early. If she waits until she reaches her full retirement age to start benefits on yours, then she'll get the whole 50%, and there's not that reduction. So check out my website, click on the family benefits tab, and you'll see a spouse benefit calculator, and then you type in the numbers there, and it'll give you a better idea of what you're talking about. So let's see. Since we are not beneficiaries, I might getting this all wrong. Okay. Why do we have to repay private disability back after receiving SSDI? Why do you have to pay back private disability? Not sure. That sounds like well, a lot of private insurance companies do that as part of the policy on private insurance policies. The contract, they say, okay, if you file for disability, you also have to file for Social Security disability, and whatever you receive from Social Security disability, it's offset what we have to pay you. So that's probably what happened. You applied for regular Social Security disability benefits. They approved you, like a year of retroactive pay, and then the company goes after you and says, hey, you got your 12 months retroactive pay. We were paying you during that 12 months, so we want you to repay us what we paid you during that 12 months. So that's how usually that happens. Trump did not call on them to protect on January 6th. Then he pardons all the felons and makes them ICE agents. Fascism. Steve Miller has fantasized MAGA as Trump following him. Yeah. There are some opportunists who come out during protests to loot, commit vandalism, and steal. They may not even be part of the protest at all. Yes, that is a fact. Anytime. I mean, that's, and it's those people that fall for those, people that are not part of the group or just idiots that join the group. And then they use that against the entire group. So I agree with Dr. Ed. Oh, thank you. Ed, you go. It's your channel. Thanks. I appreciate it. VMA 115 served with Sonny Carter, flight surgeon. All right, Edward. Yeah. Yeah. El Toro had the Wake Island Avengers, the Baba Black Sheep, VMA 214. Remember the old Pappy Boyington? That great, TV show. Let's see. I don't consider someone a troll just because they have a different opinion than me. We all see things through our lens. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, yes, I agree. If it passes, it will go into effect January 2026. Oh, you're talking about the Medicaid stuff. Yes. And then once it does pass, then a lot of that stuff is almost immediately going to start. So the cuts are going to happen in 2026. So. I do not like it when others come in on someone live show and dictate what they can and cannot do. Total disrespect. Yeah, don't worry about it. That's a good thing about being a former Marine. You can't disrespect. You can, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't affect us. I think we're too. Our drill instructors made us too immune to. Yeah. Did you see the peaceful protester throwing rocks at vehicles? He has been identified and hopefully convicted and imprisoned for many years. So. Yeah, I think you're playing around there. Peaceful protester, you're trying to play around. Yeah, you're cute, Todd, but we see through you. It's not a peaceful protester if they throw rocks. So yes, you're trying to brush everybody else with that. So nice try, but yep, we're not falling for it. Trump is doing what the electorate wants. Okay, I think they were going to say he was going to go after criminals first. MS-13 and all the rest of it. But yeah, I guess I was wrong. I apologize to everyone who was offended by remarks. Wow, what an awesome person. Anybody that can say, hey, well, not sure what your context was or what you said, but you are a better person than a lot of people out there that recognize, oops, I made a mistake. Sorry. So awesome. Awesome on you. Good person. I like it. If you haven't opened your eyes and watched the live stream after dark and only watched the news, then you might be uninformed. Yeah, we've become kind of our own little echo chambers, haven't we? We just kind of watch the news that, kind of rebuilds or, supports what we already believe. So okay, let's see. Medicaid, do I need to call the Social Security office if my status changed from employment U.S. citizen? Okay, yes. If you became a naturalized U.S. citizen, number one, congratulations. And yes, you do. You don't have to, but it's recommended to update your Social Security card. And you're like, get a new social security card? No. When I ran my office and other offices throughout the country, we used to go down to naturalization ceremonies, and when people became naturalized, we set up a little table there and we updated their social security cards. Because on your social security card internally, it's obviously not on your social security card, but internally it has whether you're, a green card holder, what status you are, U.S. citizen, and stuff like that. So if you became a U.S. citizen, then you need to do an SS5 and just put, everything else has changed unless you just also change your name too. Some people change their name during the naturalization process, but you just need to update your internal records and Social Security that you became a U.S. citizen. So you don't really super have to do it. It's, once you file for benefits in the future, you have to prove you're in this country legally. And at that time, you show your certificate of naturalization and they can update it at that time. So you don't really, 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 really have to do it now, but it's a good idea to do it. So let's see. The police have arrested people who did have a violent act as damaging property. Still, the National Guard and Marines were not needed, right? So typical police force. Let's see. This old Marine is mortified that the Corps is being used against Americans in service of a fascist liar. Yeah, I am mortified that the Marines are being called up on anything by anybody at this particular, on this particular thing. Again, they have been called up, and if it's something national security, but this is a police, stupid people being stupid. So, yeah, against stupidity, we're all defenseless. If I'm diagnosed totally disabled, can they still make me volunteer? And couldn't the volunteer be considered taking care of myself? Okay, make you volunteer. So, not sure what kind of contacts you're talking about, but if you are you talking about the change in Medicaid? So, if they're talking about kicking people off Medicaid that are not working, but if you're on disability, you should be one of those exceptions. But the problem there is people that file for Social Security disability and for whatever reason don't get it correctly or incorrectly, and they are actually disabled and they are unable to work and they're low income, they get Medicaid, they're going to be kicked off because it's like, well, you don't have disability, you have to work. So, well, I am disabled. Just Social Security made the wrong decision. So unfortunately, yeah, there's going to be unfortunately a lot of people. But remember, I would file if your Social Security disability was denied, make sure you file again. Absolutely. File an appeal. Do not file again, file an appeal, appealing the first decision. So let's see, get some other questions. People with private insurance, Dr. Seuss, some reason pay a lot more attention to their needs. Yeah, anytime you have any time of skin in the game that you have to pay, deductibles and all the rest of it. Yeah, usually. Medicaid pays my Part A and Part B Medicare. Will the big, beautiful bill hurt that? So you were talking about the Medicare savings program. So Medicaid is paying for that $185 of your Part B. If you lose Medicaid, yes. And even again, there are people that are going to fall through the cracks. There's going to be a lot of collateral damage because there was a lot of collateral damage when they did that Medicaid unwinding after the pandemic. But if they do kick you off and they weren't supposed to, make sure you file an appeal. Make sure you file an appeal, and they should, after, again, it depends on your particular state, but a lot of states are having a hard time with staffing. And that's going to be the problem, is that even if you weren't supposed to be kicked off, they kicked you off accidentally. It might take you weeks, month, 2 months, 3 months to get figured out. And yeah, that's a lot of people are going to be hurting. Does having an attorney help when applying for disability? They will tell you it does. if it looks like your case is going to win. And so that's why the statistics for getting a disability lawyer to help you, they always say you get it increases your chance by 3 times. That's because they're selective in who they pick. So if you call them up and you say, yeah, I broke my pinky, they're going to say, well, no, I'm not going to take you. So they're selective. But if you tell them, oh, I've got, stage 4 cancer, and then, well, actually, they probably won't take you there because they're not going to get any back pay. So they're very selective on who they pick. And because they're selective, of course, they pick the ones they think are going to get approved, and therefore they get a higher percentage of approval rates. It's just, typical mathematics. But I always recommend, so check out my website, mygovexpert.com. I'll type it in this particular form here as well. And I have a section, everything is free on my website, on filing for disability. The first stage of the initial claim on disability, the questions that the Social Security employee or the internet application is going to ask you are the same thing as a disability lawyer is going to ask you. So you can do it yourself. You can get a lawyer if you want. But if you win, you might have to pay them 25% of back pay or up to $9,200. The second appeal, the reconsideration, that takes about 10 minutes. So you can do that yourself. If you're denied the third time and you have to go to, actually the second time, the second time. If you're denied at the reconsideration level, you have to go to the administrative law judge. Then, yes, I definitely recommend an attorney. So, and I recommend a local attorney because they know the local judges. So, Bella, what's up, Bella? Newsom addressed the state of California last night, but that's an excellent address basically to our nation, which was much needed. Yeah, I watched that. So there are pictures from the Paradise wildfire being circulated as part of the LA protest. Intentional misinformation. Yes. Yeah, those initial reports, and AI is going to just make everything even more complicated and divide us even more because we're going to believe this AI generated image. And yeah, so, and politicians win out. When they divide us, they win. If you don't think that the Marines should help to maintain order, who would you suggest sending in? The police force? Serve and protect? Yeah. And if the governor thinks the National Guard needs to send it, then yeah. We've been dealing with, disorder and that type of stuff for hundreds of years and haven't had to call the Marines. I'm not sure why now is different than, other than, wars and stuff. But how can any human being be anything happen this administration doing cuts to our older citizens when it should be the opposite as all other administration? This is mayhem, outright. Yeah. Let's see. Ed, do you think QMB recipients will surely be taken away? So that is the higher level of Medicaid. There's different levels of Medicaid. There's QMB, SLIMB, QI, and different ones. So it depends on your particular state. This is something you need to reach out to your state politicians, your governor and senators in your state, that, hey, there's people in your state that we vote for you guys, and we are dependent on Medicaid. We work and, or we're disabled or elderly, and we're dependent on this, Medicaid, and you're dependent on, because you're on QMB, not having to pay that $185 for Part B. So Ari from Chapter 9 talked about this yesterday. So if you're downgraded from QMB, if you still get Medicaid, but they downgrade you just to save money, to save that $185, then you're also going to be losing your Medicare Advantage dual eligible plan. And that's what we did. Ari and I did yesterday was talk about those grocery cards. So if you have one of those grocery cards as well, $100, $200, $300 a month, whatever the case may be, then you're also going to take that hit as well. So you're going to have to pay $185, plus you're going to lose that grocery card, plus you're going to have extra probably, co-pays and co-insurance with your Medicare. So yes, the Marines do not need to be called out on U.S. citizens, period, full stop. Yes. unless they're in Grenada, and the Marines needed to be called in to save them from but not on U.S. territory. So let's see. We need to go back to the draft. That will stop these kids from acting like thugs. It also put a lot of politicians' kids in the military too, and but they'll pick different. Yeah, they definitely won't have their kids be at 0311, right? Let's see. Police cars got burnt before Trump sent in the National Guard. Yep. So they should definitely be arrested and thrown in jail for long periods of time. I agree. All right. We are at an hour. Let's get one more Social Security type question. Can you collect Social Security and disability benefits at the same time? No. So when I talked about earlier about filing for retirement and disability benefits at the same time, you can file for both of those at the same time. It's just that if you're approved for disability, if you're receiving your early retirement and then later you're approved for disability benefits, then your retirement benefits will stop and you'll start receiving disability benefits. So you can't get both. You'll get the higher amount, whichever one you're approved for. So, all right. This is the first time I've done over 1,300 videos, and this is the first time I've done it this kind of news, but a lot of people ask me to, chime in based on my Marine Corps experience. So this is, it's been interesting. So if you've got any other comments or suggestions or anything like that, make sure you leave them in the comments. Make sure you check out my website, mygovexpert.com. If you got any comment, you got a question, just click on that little thing, record your video, and then I will answer it. You got a lot better chance, pretty much 100% chance of getting your question answered if I get a video, because we like to see your face. We like to see your beautiful face asking the question. So y'all take care. Have a beautiful night. And please, please, please take care of each other.